Tropical Storm Bret is headed for the Windward Islands. Good evening, I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. Here is a very unusual water vapor imagery for late June. Look at in the central Atlantic, we have a tropical storm, a system that's very close to becoming a tropical depression, and then another strong tropical wave. We call that a wave train. And we often see this sometimes in August or September, but not on the night of June 21st. Very unusual. Let's start with Bret, since that's the one that's the strongest, and we have warnings out for it. Here is the latest from the National Hurricane Center on Tropical Storm Bret. As of 11 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, Bret was at 13.5 north, 55.2 west, winds of 65, so it's a moderate to strong tropical storm, and it doesn't look like it's going to cross that threshold to hurricane, but man, for late June, that is impressive for the mean development region out here in the Atlantic. And it's moving west at 16 miles per hour. The Air Force Recon has been flying out. They were able to fly out from the islands and zigzag around it, and the pressure holding steady around 999 to 1,000 millibars. So a moderate to a strong tropical storm. We do, of course, have watches and warnings out because it is expected to go through the islands. We have a tropical storm warning for Dominica, St. Lucia, and Martinique. And we have a tropical storm watch for Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. So that's telling me that because this wind field is more to the north of the center and is expected to move through the Windward Islands, areas to the south like Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines might not get as much of that tropical storm force winds, but they may. They may, and so it's going to blow through there, and that's why we have those watches and warnings. By the time Saturday comes, Bret should be in such an unfavorable environment in the Caribbean Sea that it will be dealt a quick death, and we won't have to deal with it. So by Saturday, it should dissipate, and whatever's left of Bret should move south of Jamaica into areas of Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and eventually the Pacific as it continues to the west. There's a dominant area of high pressure, the ridging to the north, keeping this steered to the west, especially because it's not that strong. The stronger it was, it might have curved more towards the north end of that track, that cone there, but it is going to remain pretty much straight to the west. The wind shear is a factor. Here's the latest wind shear, and again, it looks like it's coming in from this direction, so there is some westerly shear, and that's why it's kind of getting shredded there, but that's almost allowing the convection to keep firing to try and fight back against the shear. But believe me, the wind shear in the Caribbean will win out. No doubt about that. The computer models, again, very good agreement that it's almost straight to the west. It might even go into Nicaragua, whatever's left of it. I don't even know if it's going to make it to Honduras. The ridging and the weakness of the system will allow it to kind of just dissolve into a tropical wave and then continue, but not before moving through the islands. There's the infrared satellite imagery, and again, the Hurricane Center noted that the aircraft zigzagging around there is noting that it is getting sheared, and that's why it's not strengthening more than it would if it had just a little decrease in that wind shear. The waters are so abnormally warm in the Atlantic this year that this probably would be a Category 1 hurricane, but there's the main convective blob over the center trying to fire over the center, and then there's even more feeder bands there following behind. So this blob of a tropical storm will be moving through the islands. The islands there, I know this is Barbados right here, and then further north, I could always tell Guadeloupe is the one that's shaped like a butterfly. St. Lucia further to the south, Dominica. Again, Barbados and areas there of St. Vincent and the Grenadines shouldn't experience anything that bad. The worst weather will be here to the north, obviously where the system's tropical storm force winds are and the strongest convection. So what are we expecting with Bret? Number one, from the National Hurricane Center, Bret is forecast to approach the Lesser Antilles through Thursday and then move across the islands late Thursday night as a strong tropical storm. So not a hurricane, but definitely a tropical storm. Number two, we have that tropical storm warning for St. Lucia, Martinique, and Dominica, and there is the risk of flooding from heavy rain, strong winds, and dangerous waves as well, right along the coastlines, and a tropical storm watch is in effect, as I mentioned, for Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, and we could see some different watches and warnings go up as Bret continues to move closer to the islands. For the islands right now, weather not too bad. We've got Barbados is off the screen there, but there is the island of Martinique, and Martinique right in here, Dominica, Guadeloupe, and then you go down further, there's St. Lucia, and then St. Vincent. So if I had to guess where the center of the storm comes in, probably St. Lucia, maybe Martinique. But again, the weather, that would put areas up there towards Dominica maybe under the worst weather, Dominica, Martinique, and that's why you guys are under the tropical storm warning. But again, right now, it's clear out there. Here's our other Invest system, Invest 93. It does appear that this one will move a little bit more towards the north than Bret did, and probably eventually turn. But remember, that's what we thought about Bret. So if it ends up where Bret was, it'll end up much to the west of these models. But right now they are showing it getting relatively strong, at least a tropical storm of Bret's intensity, if not a hurricane. And remember, the stronger it becomes, the more likely it is to move poleward, therefore more northward and out to sea. But then we would have to deal with potentially an impact in the northern Virgin Islands up here and maybe even Bermuda. But that's a long way away. We don't have a system yet. But looking out there, this looks like a depression in the making. I mean, it's, another system off Africa. This is, I'd say, somewhere near 41 west and 10.5, 11 north, somewhere out there, far in the eastern Atlantic. But this is what you look for in August or September, not in late June. So there are a lot of people saying, well, look, it's supposed to be this El Nino year. Probably not that busy. Does this mean we're in for it come August? Maybe. Or it could just mean it's all going to turn off. We don't know. But look at this wave train. There's Bret. There's our Invest 93L. There's another wave, another one leaving Africa, and another blob over Africa. I mean, if every one of these developed, that would be Cindy, Don, Emily, Franklin. Very, very unlikely that would happen, but just the fact that we could speculate about the what if in late June, that's something else. Again, this system's looking a little bit better tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a tropical storm the next few days and follows in Bret's footsteps. So we're going to watch all of this, but right now, obviously, the focus is on Tropical Storm Bret. If you are in the islands under the tropical storm warning, Dominica, St. Vincent, Martinique, you guys are the ones that are likely to get the most impact from the northern edge where those tropical storm force winds are. If you are in the tropical storm watch area, that's Barbados, St. Vincent, the Grenadines down here, you guys are still at risk. So again, batten down the hatches. It looks like it's going to move through tomorrow night, Thursday night. By the time you see this update early Thursday, you've got 12 to 18 hours to prepare for a nasty little tropical storm. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on the tropics. We'll watch those systems off Africa, and I'll be back next time continuing to watch a very busy June, and of course more on Bret.